Hey, Pastor Ben Miller here from Bumpville Bible Church again. Today we're looking at Lesson 11 on prayer, and now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of shift from the Old Testament. We've been talking about a lot of examples in the Old Testament. We're going to go to the New Testament. We're going to look at what Jesus said about prayer and how he modeled it. And so we're going to start today in the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 6. And we're going to start with verse 5, where Jesus says on the Sermon on the Mount, "And when you pray, you must not be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and at the street corners, that they may be seen by others. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you." And what do we see here? I think we see that perhaps the secret to praying, as Leonard Ravenhill would say, is praying in secret. You know, prayer is not a show to people. Because, see, prayer in of itself doesn't get us favor with God. And that's what the Pharisees missed, right? They thought when they went out and they were praying in the crowds and just showing everybody how much, hey, look at how much I love God. God thinks I'm a pretty sweet dude. I'm pretty holy. That's not what prayer is about. Prayer is about talking with God. Prayer is about interacting with God. In fact, prayer is just about crying out to God. That's what we do in prayer. Prayer in and of itself doesn't save us. Prayer is just the means in which we cry out to God for help and mercy. And one of the means in which he answers us. And so prayer is a personal thing. It doesn't mean you never pray in public. There are times to pray in public, but that's not the goal. And that's why I think so many of us have a hard time actually with praying. Because prayer is not about us. It's about God. We could spend prolonged times in prayer and nobody ever knows. That means if nobody ever knows I'm praying a lot to God, that means what? They don't know how holy I am. They don't know how much I love God because they don't know how much I'm praying. I need to tell them. No, see, that's not what prayer is about. And that's why we don't like to pray. And I think that's why prayer meetings in church are so poorly attended. Because they're just not prayers. They're just not about me. They're about God. And we as people are, quite frankly, we're all about us, aren't we? I mean, that was the Pharisees thing, right? They took prayer, which was supposed to be all about God, and made it all about them. And that's not what prayer is. Prayer is about getting alone with God and calling out to him. Prayers are not about me. It's not about lifting myself up. It's actually about going to God, humbling myself and saying, God, I need help. God, I need you to work in my life. God, there are these sins in my life that I can't overcome. Lord, I just have a hard time gossiping. I need your help. Lord, I wish I had the fruit of the Spirit, like of love and joy. God, I just really struggle with having joy that comes from your Spirit. Holy Spirit, would you just give me that joy that comes from God and that assurance of salvation? Okay, that's what prayer is about. Prayer is about coming to humility. Prayer is about, God, this friend I know doesn't know you. And I've talked to her, and she just doesn't believe who you are. Will you please show her how awesome you are? Because I can't. I've tried, God, and I haven't gotten through. Will you show her? Will you give me wisdom to know what to say? See, that's what prayer is about. Prayer is about coming to God in humility and crying out to him. It's not a show. It's not entertainment. It's not about being popular. It's about simply crying out to God. I'm Pastor Ben Miller. Till next time, let him who has ears to hear, hear what the Spirit has to say.